What's the price of being someone's punchline? Last night, at a backyard barbecue thick with the smell of charred burgers and cheap beer, my boyfriend Liam answered that question with a smug grin and a tired joke that cracked my world open. I'm Clara, a project manager who spent 6 years building a life with Liam, an electrician who's been coasting on my dime. We've been living in a house I own, my name on the deed, my inheritance as the down payment, while he paid less than half the bills, calling it our home. I thought we were a team, saving for a future with a dog and maybe a ring. But last night, surrounded by his family's laughter, I saw the truth. His uncle, slurring through whiskey, asked when Liam would make an honest woman out of me. Liam, chest-puffed, smirked at the crowd and said, "Why buy the cow when I get the milk for free?" His dad roared, his cousin slapped his back, and his mom gave me a pitying smile. I didn't cry or yell. A strange calm settled over me, like solving a puzzle I'd stared at too long. I sipped my drink, smiled, and let them laugh. But the fog I'd lived in, comfortable, blurry, lifted. I saw Liam not as my partner, but as a freeloader basking in a life I funded. This morning while he was at work, I moved out. Every piece of furniture, the TV, my coffee maker, gone. I changed the locks and sent him a text with a photo of the empty living room. The cow is moved out. Don't bother coming home. My phone's been buzzing ever since, Liam's voice cracking with panic, asking where our stuff went. I'm sitting in my new apartment now, boxes stacked around me, the air quiet except for the hum of my own thoughts. This wasn't a snap decision. It's been brewing for years, and I'm ready to tell you how it all unraveled. 6 years ago, Liam and I were electric, two 20-somethings with big dreams. I was climbing the ladder at a tech startup, squirreling away savings since I was a teenager. Liam, fresh out of his electrician apprenticeship, was charming but buried in school debt and a credit score that made bankers wince. We wanted the same things: a house, stability, a life together. When my grandmother passed, she left me enough for a down payment, not a fortune, but enough to make a move. 2 years in, we found a perfect craftsman-style house with a wraparound porch. At the bank, the loan officer barely glanced at Liam's application before chuckling. His debt-to-income ratio was a mess. Mine, spotless. Steady job, great credit, inheritance ready. The broker suggested I buy the house alone, let Liam live there and pay rent until his credit improved. It sounded practical. I signed the papers. My name alone on the mortgage, the deed, the bills. Liam transferred me a monthly amount, never half, more like a third of the costs. I paid for the couch, the fridge, the water heater when it died. He called it our house, but it was mine. And deep down, I think he liked it that way. No risk, all reward. Over time, the cracks showed. I'd nudge him about checking his credit or refinancing to add his name. "Not yet, babe," he'd say, citing some loan he was still paying or a raise he was chasing. I believed him at first, thinking we were just delayed, not stuck. But the marriage talk was worse. Friends were posting engagement rings and baby bumps, while Liam brushed off my hints with, "We're good, right? It's just a piece of paper." I wanted more than a roommate with benefits. I wanted a partner. Last night's barbecue wasn't the first red flag, but it was the loudest. As his family laughed, I saw myself clearly. The woman who paid for their Christmas dinners, who hosted their Super Bowl parties on my 70-inch TV, reduced to a punchline. I drove us home, his chuckles filling the car, while I stayed silent, already reaching for the folder in my office labeled Household Contingency Plan. I'd started it 6 months ago, when his latest excuse about marriage felt like a door slamming shut. It held a mover's number, a lease for this apartment, and a checklist I'd been quietly ticking off. The joke wasn't my wake-up call, it was the starting gun. To understand how we got here, I need to rewind to those early days when everything felt full of promise, like the fresh scent of rain on new asphalt. Liam and I met at a mutual friend's housewarming party, both of us nursing lukewarm beers and chatting about our ambitions. I was 25, laser-focused on my career in project management, where I thrived on timelines and spreadsheets that made chaos into order. Liam, a year older, had that easy charm. Tall, with a crooked smile and calloused hands from his apprenticeship. He was finishing up as an electrician, excited about steady work but weighed down by student loans and a history of bad financial choices from his early 20s, like maxed-out credit cards on impulse buys. We clicked instantly, bonding over shared dreams of a cozy home, weekend hikes with a future dog, and building something solid. It wasn't long before we were inseparable, spending nights cooking simple meals in my tiny apartment and talking about the life we wanted. About 2 years in, we started house hunting seriously. The market was tough, but my grandmother's passing had left me with an inheritance, a modest sum, but enough to cover a down payment on a starter home. It felt like a sign, her way of helping me build the stability she'd always preached about. Liam was enthusiastic, pointing out listings with big yards and garages where he could tinker with projects. But when we sat down with the mortgage broker, reality hit like a cold splash. Liam's application was a non-starter. His debt made his credit score look like a battlefield. The broker, a no-nonsense woman with glasses perched on her nose, laid it out plainly. His numbers don't add up for joint approval, but yours are golden. Solid income, excellent credit, that inheritance ready to go. The smart play is for you to buy it in your name alone. He can contribute monthly, live there, and once his credit cleans up in a year or two, refinance and add him. It made sense on paper, a temporary fix to get us under a roof. I hesitated for a moment, glancing at Liam, who nodded eagerly, saying, "Yeah, babe, whatever gets us in the door." So I did it. Signed every document solo, wired the down payment from my account, and suddenly we had keys to a charming 2-bedroom with hardwood floors and a kitchen that begged for homemade dinners. From the start, the arrangement was lopsided, though I didn't mind at first. It felt like investing in us. Liam moved in his boxes of tools and video games, and we'd celebrate with takeout on the floor before the furniture arrived. But the bills piled up in my name: mortgage, utilities, property taxes, all auto-drafted from my checking account. He'd Venmo me his share each month, usually around $800, while the total costs hovered at $2,500 or more, depending on repairs. I covered the gaps, telling myself it was temporary. I bought the sectional sofa on sale, the dining table where we'd host game nights, even the smart TV for movie marathons. When the water heater burst one winter, flooding the basement with icy water that soaked our stored holiday decorations, I footed the $1,200 bill without blinking, while Liam helped mop up and promised to chip in extra next month. He did, sort of, a couple $100 here and there, but it never balanced out. I started keeping quiet track in a spreadsheet, not out of resentment, but because organization is my lifeline. Rows for his contributions, columns for actual expenses, the difference glaring in red. As months turned to years, what began as practical started feeling permanent. I'd bring up refinancing casually over breakfast, the steam from my coffee curling up as I said, "Hey, checked your credit lately? We could get your name on this soon." He'd pause mid-bite of toast, mumbling excuses like, "Still grinding down that last loan, but soon," or "waiting for a promotion, better rates that way." I pushed gently on marriage, too, envisioning a simple ceremony in our backyard, the one I mowed and planted with flowers. But he'd deflect with a hug and a joke. "We're basically married already, right? No rush." Deep down, doubts crept in like weeds. Why commit when he had all the perks? Home-cooked meals, Wi-Fi for his gaming, a bed he didn't pay half for. Our friends advanced, engagements announced over group texts, houses bought jointly, babies on the way. We stalled, and I felt it in quiet moments, staring at the ceiling at night, wondering if I was the only one rowing the boat. That contingency folder? It grew from those whispers of unease. 6 months ago, after another brushed-off talk about rings, I consulted a lawyer discreetly during lunch breaks. She confirmed what I suspected. Legally, he was a guest, no equity, no claim. No lease meant I could evict with notice. I started scouting apartments, bookmarking movers, even depositing a hold on this place. A sunny 1-bedroom with a balcony overlooking trees, a fresh start waiting. I didn't tell a soul, but the planning brought a secret thrill, like reclaiming control. Liam remained oblivious, content in the routine we'd built. My routine, really. He'd come home smelling of wire and sweat, flop on the couch I bought, and stream shows on the TV I paid for while I handled the back end. Bills, taxes, the endless adulting he avoided. Looking back, the financial gap wasn't just numbers. It mirrored our emotional one. I was building equity in a future he treated like a rental. His family knew the setup too. His mom had even thanked me once for helping him get stable. But at that barbecue, their laughter revealed they saw me as the generous fool, not the partner. Now, in this empty apartment, the silence amplifies my resolve. Liam's texts keep coming, shifting from bewilderment to fury. "Where's our stuff? This isn't funny." But it's not about funny anymore. It's about fairness, and the roots of our arrangement have finally rotted through. The doubts didn't hit all at once. They built slowly, like layers of dust on a shelf you keep meaning to clean. I'd lie awake some nights, the glow from my phone screen illuminating the bedroom while Liam snored beside me, scrolling through real estate apps or wedding inspiration boards, wondering why our life felt like a holding pattern. We'd go on dates. Dinner at our favorite Italian spot where the garlic bread was always too hot and the wine too cheap, but conversations about the future circled back to vague assurances. "Soon," he'd say, squeezing my hand across the table, his eyes flicking to the game on the bar TV. I wanted to believe him, to cling to the good times. Lazy Sundays with coffee in bed, laughing at bad movies, the way he'd fix a flickering light without me asking. But the stalled dreams gnawed at me, turning excitement into quiet frustration. It started with small things. About a year after moving in, I suggested we look into credit repair services for him. Nothing pushy, just a casual mention over breakfast as I poured cereal. "We could get you on the deed sooner," I'd say, stirring my coffee with a spoon that clinked against the mug. He'd nod, promise to check it out, but weeks would pass with no follow-up. Then came the bigger talks, like marriage. One evening, after a friend's engagement party where champagne flowed and toasts echoed, I broached it on the drive home, the streetlights streaking across the windshield. "What do you think about us doing something like that?" I asked, my voice light but my heart pounding. He shifted in the passenger seat, chuckling nervously. "Babe, we're fine as we are. Why mess with a good thing? It's just paperwork." I swallowed the lump in my throat, telling myself he was right, but it stung. Like I was the only one envisioning vows under string lights in our backyard, the grass I watered and the flowers I planted framing the scene. As time wore on, the excuses piled up like unpaid bills. "Let's wait for my raise," he'd say when I mentioned refinancing, or "that loan's almost gone. Next year for sure." I tracked it all in my head, then in that spreadsheet, watching the disparity grow. Our friends progressed. One couple bought a house together, another announced a pregnancy with a cute ultrasound photo. We'd celebrate them at barbecues or brunches, and I'd smile through the envy, wondering why we were stuck. Liam seemed content, thriving in his job with overtime that he spent on new tools or games, while I shouldered the house responsibilities, filing taxes, scheduling repairs, even painting the living room a soft gray one weekend when he was out fishing with buddies. His family noticed too. His mom would pat my arm at gatherings and say, "You're so good for him, keeping everything together." But their words felt backhanded, like they knew he was getting a free ride. 6 months ago, the turning point came during a quiet dinner at home. I'd made his favorite, steak tacos with fresh salsa, and as we ate, I gently pushed again. "Liam, it's been 4 years in the house. Your credit should be better by now. And marriage, I need to know we're heading there." He set down his fork, sighing. "Claire, why the rush? We're happy, aren't we? Let's not complicate it." That word complicate hit like a slap. It wasn't complication, it was commitment. That night, after he fell asleep, I slipped into my office, the desk lamp casting a warm pool of light on my filing cabinet. I pulled out a blank folder and labeled it Household Contingency Plan. It wasn't betrayal, it was self-preservation. As a project manager, I live by plans. Gantt charts, risk assessments, fallback options. Why not apply that to my life? I started small, researching quietly on my laptop during lunch breaks at work, the office hum of keyboards and coffee machines masking my clicks. First, I consulted a lawyer via virtual appointment, describing our setup. House in my name, his minimal contributions, no lease. She was straightforward, her voice crackling through the speakers. "Legally, he's a guest, no equity without proof of shared investment. Give him written notice to vacate, and you're clear." I took notes, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. Next, I scouted apartments online, favoring ones with modern kitchens and natural light, places where I could start fresh without echoes of him. I put a deposit on this unit, a cozy space with high ceilings and a view of a park, where morning joggers would remind me of new beginnings. Then came the movers. I booked a flexible date with a company recommended by a colleague, explaining it as a potential relocation for work. They were pros, assuring me they'd handle everything swiftly. The plan expanded: checklists for forwarding mail, transferring utilities, even a locksmith's contact. I photographed receipts for every major purchase: the couch he'd helped with $200 toward $2,000, the TV that was fully mine. I created a new email address for official communications, something impersonal to keep distance. All the while, life with Liam continued on the surface. Shared meals, inside jokes, cuddles on the couch. But inside, I was detaching, like loosening a knot one thread at a time. I didn't feel guilty. I felt empowered, preparing for a storm I hoped wouldn't come but suspected would. His reluctance wasn't just laziness, it was comfort in the status quo, where I provided the safety net. That barbecue joke? It crystallized everything, turning stalled dreams into action. As I sit here now unpacking a box of books in my new space, the weight of those quiet plans feels like armor. Liam's messages have shifted to please, his voice in the voicemails cracking with desperation. But I've already moved forward, the stagnation behind me. The morning after the barbecue, I woke up before dawn, the apartment silent except for the faint hum of the fridge I'd soon leave behind. Liam was already gone for work, his toolbox clattering out the door at 6 a.m. as usual. I didn't waste a second. My contingency plan, that folder I'd been building for 6 months, sat on my desk like a loaded gun, and his joke last night, "Why buy the cow?" was the trigger. I'd spent years paying for the house, the furniture, the life he enjoyed without a shred of equity, and I was done being his punchline. By 7 a.m., I was on the phone with the moving company, confirming the date I'd tentatively booked a month ago. "Can you make it today?" I asked, my voice steady despite the adrenaline buzzing in my veins. They could. 9 a.m. sharp. I pulled up my checklist: cancel utilities, forward mail, call the locksmith. Every task felt like a step toward freedom, like peeling off a too tight skin. The movers arrived right on time, a crew of 4 in matching blue shirts, their truck idling in my driveway. I walked them through the house, pointing out what was mine: everything but Liam's clothes, his video games, and a cheap coffee maker he'd chipped in for. The sectional sofa I'd splurged on? Mine. The 70-inch TV we watched Super Bowl on? Mine. The dining table where his family ate my food at Christmas? All mine. They worked fast, wrapping furniture in blankets, boxing up my dishes, my books, my life. By noon, the house was a shell: bare walls, scuffed floors, the echo of my footsteps. I felt a pang, not for Liam, but for the dream I'd poured into this place, the one where we'd grow old on that porch. But it passed. I was too busy. The locksmith arrived at 1 p.m., a wiry guy with a toolbox that rattled like loose change. He swapped out every lock, front door, back door, even the garage, in under an hour. I tested the new keys, their shiny weight solid in my hand, a tangible line between past and future. Meanwhile, I coordinated with the utility companies, setting cancellation dates for the old accounts and activating new ones for my apartment, a bright one-bedroom I'd signed for weeks ago. The movers followed me there, unloading my life into a space that smelled of fresh paint and possibility. They even assembled my bed frame, a small kindness that made me tip extra. By 3 p.m., I was alone in my new place, boxes stacked against the walls, the city humming outside my window. I sat on the floor, sipping water from a plastic cup, and took a photo of the empty living room back at the house. My fingers hovered over my phone, then typed, "The cow is moved out. You should probably find a new place to get your free milk. P.S. The locks have been changed. Don't bother coming home." I hit send, my heart racing, but not with fear, with clarity. Liam's first call came an hour later, his voice shrill through the speaker. "Clara, what the hell? Where's all our stuff? Did we get robbed?" I didn't answer. The second call was angrier. "You can't just take everything. Half of that's mine." I let it go to voicemail, his panic a distant noise. By evening, the texts rolled in, long, rambling paragraphs of confusion, then fury, claiming he'd paid for half the furniture, which was laughable. I had receipts for every dollar, tucked in my contingency folder. His mom, Brenda, called next, her tones syrupy with fake concern. "Clara, dear, there's been a misunderstanding." Liam's so upset. I ignored that too, but saved the voicemail, just in case. My lawyer had warned me to document everything, and I was ready. Sitting in my new apartment, The sunset painting the walls orange, I felt a strange peace. The chaos of Liam's reaction was his problem now, not mine. I'd spent years carrying the weight of our life, from mortgage payments to broken appliances, while he coasted, tossing out jokes about free milk. But I wasn't his cow, and this wasn't his farm. I thought back to the barbecue, the way his family laughed, their faces lit by string lights as they toasted my humiliation. I'd stayed polite, helped his mom clean up. The cow even smiled as we drove home. But that folder in my office, the one I'd opened last night while Liam slept, held the truth. I'd been preparing for this, step by step, for months. The movers, the lease, the locksmith, all planned with the precision I bring to my job. This wasn't impulse. It was strategy. As Liam's messages piled up, I opened my laptop and reviewed my spreadsheet, the one tracking his contributions against mine. His rent had never covered even 40% of the costs, yet he'd called it our house. I closed the screen, leaned back on a box, and let the silence wrap around me. No sports blaring, no socks on the floor, just me and the life I was about to build. Liam could panic all he wanted. The cow had left the building, and she wasn't coming back. Liam's panic hit like a storm after that text, his calls lighting up my phone like fireworks gone wrong. The first one was pure confusion, his voice breathless as if he'd run home. "Clara, seriously, where's everything? The furniture, the TV? Did someone break in?" I let it ring out, staring at the screen in my new apartment, the boxes around me a fortress of my own making. By the second call, confusion turned to anger, his tone sharpening like a knife on stone. "This is our stuff. You can't just take it all. Half is mine. I paid for it." Spoiler: he hadn't. His contributions were drops in the bucket, but facts didn't matter in his frenzy. Texts flooded in next, long walls of words rambling from disbelief to demands, claiming theft, threatening police. I sat on my inflatable mattress, eating takeout from a cardboard box, the flavors sharp and satisfying in the quiet. No blaring sports, no mess to clean, just peace, the kind I'd forgotten existed. As night fell, the pleas started. "Clara, please call me. Where am I supposed to sleep? My clothes, my work tools, everything's in there. I'm sorry about the joke, it was dumb." His voice cracked in the voicemails, a mix of desperation and regret that might have tugged at me months ago, but now it bounced off like rain on a window. I blocked his number, the click final, like closing a chapter. Right on cue, his mom Brenda chimed in, her voicemail starting sweet as pie. "Clara dear, it's Brenda. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Liam's devastated. Let's talk this out like family." An hour later, the sweetness soured, her voice tight. "This has gone too far. You must let him in to get his things. It's the law. My husband says this is basically theft." I almost laughed at their sudden legal expertise, saving the messages as evidence, just like my lawyer advised. They had no clue how prepared I was, how this wasn't a rash move, but a loaded plan I'd aimed carefully. 6 months back, after that dinner where he dodged marriage talk again, I'd sat down with the lawyer in her cluttered office, the air smelling of coffee and old files. I laid it all out. The house in my name, his paltry monthly transfers below market rent, no lease, no equity. She nodded, flipping through my spreadsheets. "He's a long-term guest. Nothing more. To avoid mess, give formal written notice to vacate like a tenant. Document everything, photos, receipts." It was clear-cut, empowering. So, after blocking Liam, I fired up my laptop and created that new email address, sterile and professional. The subject: notice to vacate property at 123 Maple Street. The body was concise. "Liam, this serves as official notice that your guest status at my property is terminated immediately. Arrange removal of your personal belongings within 30 days via this email only, so I can be present. Any unauthorized access is trespassing. A final utilities bill will go to your parents' address. Regards, Clara." I attached photos of the empty rooms, time-stamped, showing the pristine condition. No damage, no excuses. The next day, the chaos ramped up. Liam's dad, Michael, left a voicemail in his booming business owner voice, the one he used to command respect at family gatherings. "Clara, this is childish. We're exploring legal options if you don't let him in. We want a face-to-face to sort this like adults." Threats from a man who'd laughed at my expense, slapping Liam's back like he'd won a prize. I emailed back calmly. "A meeting works. Tomorrow, 4 p.m., coffee shop at Oak and Main. Bring your paperwork, I'll have mine." My binder was ready. that white 1-inch organizer I'd assembled meticulously, tabs color-coded for ownership, contributions, legal advice. As a project manager, this was my wheelhouse: facts over feelings, data dismantling drama. In the quiet of my apartment, I unpacked a few more boxes, hanging clothes in the closet, the fabric soft against my fingers. The silence was golden, no echoes of Liam's excuses or his family's pity. I'd given him the benefits of homeownership without the burden, funding his comfort while he stalled our future. Now their pushback felt like flailing in quicksand. They'd underestimated the cow who owned the farm. Liam's last unblocked text before I shut it down. "Please, I have nowhere to go." But that was his reality now, not mine. I'd built this exit with care, and as the sun set, casting long shadows across my new floor, I felt ready for whatever came next. I arrived at the coffee shop 20 minutes early, the aroma of fresh brews mixing with the low hum of chatter from patrons tapping on laptops. I claimed a corner table, ordered an iced tea that clinked with ice cubes, and set my secret weapon in front of me. That slim white binder, my project manager's masterpiece. For 6 months, I'd poured my organizational skills into it, tabbing sections with colored dividers, compiling every scrap of evidence like a case file. No nerves fluttered in my stomach. This wasn't an emotional ambush anymore. It was a presentation, facts laid bare, and I was in control. The door chimed at exactly 4 p.m., and in they walked, Liam, Brenda, and Michael, like a trio of storm clouds ready to burst. Liam's eyes were red-rimmed, avoiding mine as he slumped into a chair. Brenda clutched her purse tightly, her face pinched with worry, while Michael sat ramrod straight, jaw set in that authoritative way he used at family dinners. Before I could even greet them, Michael leaned forward, his voice booming like he was closing a deal. "Clara, what you've done is shocking. You can't toss someone out after 6 years. There are legal ramifications." Brenda jumped in, her tone quivering. "We thought you were family. How could you be so cruel? He's sleeping on our couch with nowhere to go." Liam finally muttered, staring at the table. "You stole our things, the furniture, everything." I let them vent, sipping my tea slowly, the cool liquid grounding me. Then, with a cheerful smile, I placed my hand on the binder. "I'm glad you brought up these points. I have some info that might clarify things. Let's review it together." I brought paperwork, as promised. I flipped to the first tab, labeled ownership, and slid copies of the deed and mortgage across the table. The papers rustled softly as Michael grabbed them. "As you see, my name alone is on every document. I'm the sole owner." He shoved them back. "That's just a financing technicality." I raised an eyebrow, moving to tab 2. Down payment. Out came the bank statement from 4 years ago, showing the wire from my inheritance straight to escrow. This was my money entirely, not ours, mine from my grandmother. Liam shifted uncomfortably, opening his mouth, but I was already on tab 3, monthly contributions. My spreadsheet was a work of art. Columns for his transfers, actual costs of mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities. I tapped the third column. This shows the gap. On average, your share covered about 35% of basics, before extras like the water heater I replaced alone. Their eyes scanned the numbers, Michael's face tightening, Brenda paling. "And finally," I said, turning to the legal tab, "this summarizes advice from my attorney 6 months ago. As a guest with no lease or equity, you get 30-day notice, which I provided." I snapped the binder shut, the sound crisp in the air. The table fell silent, the coffee shop's background noise suddenly louder, espresso machines hissing, chairs scraping. Liam shook his head, mumbling, "I can't believe this." I leaned back, my voice sweet. "It all ties back to your joke, Liam, the one about not buying the cow for free milk." He flinched, his parents exchanging confused glances. "You thought it was clever, but you missed that the cow owns the farm, the barn, the pasture, everything. I gave you a discount because I thought we were partners, building together. But at the barbecue, you and your family made it clear I was just the convenient cow." Brenda gasped softly, Michael's knuckles whitening on the table. Liam exploded then, his face flushing. "This is insane. You planned this, plotted against me." I stood, gathering my things calmly. "No, Liam. I prepared. It's what responsible adults do when they own things, instead of freeloading." I looked at his parents. "Thanks for the meeting. Very productive." I walked out, their arguing voices fading behind me. Brenda's whispers, Michael's grumbles, Liam's protests. In my car, the engine purring to life, I didn't feel rage or sorrow, just lightness, like shedding a heavy coat. The showdown had gone exactly as I'd scripted in my mind, facts trumping their bluster. Back in my apartment, I unpacked another box, the evening light filtering through windows without his shadow. Their underestimation was their downfall. I'd flipped the script, asserting the power I'd always held. The month following our coffee shop showdown dragged with tension, like a storm cloud that refused to break. Liam emailed from his work account, short, sullen messages coordinating a pickup time for his stuff, as per my instructions. I wasn't about to face him alone, so I roped in my best friend Sarah, who'd been my sounding board through all this. We met at the house on a Saturday morning, the air crisp with fall leaves crunching underfoot. Sarah blasted upbeat playlists from her phone, turning the wait into a mini party. We ordered pizza, the cheesy aroma filling the empty rooms as we chatted about my new apartment's balcony view. Liam arrived with Michael in tow, their pickup truck rumbling into the driveway. No moving van, just that rusty bed, as if they expected his belongings to fit in a few trips. They looked defeated. Liam's shoulders slumped, Michael's face etched with forced stoicism. They didn't speak much at first, just nodded curtly as I unlocked the door. Liam wandered from room to room, the echo of his footsteps amplifying the bareness. Closets half empty, shelves cleared of my books. He stuffed clothes into duffel bags, the fabric rustling softly, and boxed up his video games, controllers clinking together. Sarah and I stayed in the kitchen, nibbling pizza, keeping an eye without hovering. The only flare-up came when Liam reached for the espresso machine on the counter, its chrome gleaming under the window light. "That's staying," I said, clearing my throat. He spun around, eyes flashing. "What?" "I use this every day. I bought it." I pulled up the Amazon receipt on my phone, the screen glowing with proof. My credit card, 2 years ago. "Actually, this says I did. You can take the drip maker in the pantry. You tossed in $20 for that." Michael shot him a glare that screamed, "Don't push it," and Liam slammed the machine down, muttering under his breath as he stormed out with another box. It was petty, sure, but standing there, armed with facts while he fumed, felt like sweet justice. A small win in the war I'd already won. They loaded the truck in under an hour, the boxes thudding into place. No goodbyes, just a final glance from Michael as they drove off, dust kicking up behind them. Sarah high-fived me once they were gone. "That was epic. You were a boss." I locked up, the new keys jangling, and we headed back to my apartment, where we unpacked more boxes over wine, laughing about the espresso standoff. But the loose ends weren't tied yet. A week later, a letter arrived in my mail, official-looking, from a law firm representing Michael, claiming Liam deserved a share of the property due to his significant contributions and emotional investment. My stomach twisted for a second, the paper crisp in my hands, but then I remembered my lawyer. I scanned and emailed it to her, pacing my living room as I waited. She called back laughing, her voice bright through the phone. "This is saber-rattling. Zero merit. No proof of equity, no common law claims in our state without marriage." She drafted a response that was a masterpiece of legal sharpness, citing my documents, the notice, and precedents that shredded their case. I never heard back. The threat fizzled like a dud firework. With that off my plate, I called a realtor friend, the one who'd helped with the original purchase. We staged the house minimally, fresh paint on the walls, a few rented pieces to show potential, and listed it. The market was hot, buyers swarming like bees to honey. It sold in days, above asking, the closing papers a stack of freedom. After settling the mortgage and fees, the profit hit my account, a hefty sum that made my eyes widen at the bank app. It was validation, the value of years I'd invested alone, turning my farm into cash for new horizons. In the quiet after, I took a breath. For the first month post-sale, I did nothing extravagant, just savored the calm. Mornings with coffee on my balcony, watching birds flit between trees. Evenings reading novels I'd shelved for too long, pages turning softly in the lamplight. No more waiting for Liam's schedule or cleaning his messes. Then, impulse struck. I booked that Italy trip I dreamed of. 3 weeks of pasta and gelato, wandering cobblestone streets in Rome and Florence. The sun on ancient ruins warmed my skin, the flavors bursting like life reborn. Back home 2 months ago, I've kept renting this apartment, investing the house money wisely, stocks, a savings boost, letting it grow while I figure my next move. The open road of my future feels vast, no longer tethered to someone else's delays. As for Liam, snippets trickle in from mutual friends over coffee catch-ups. He's bunking in his parents' basement, bitter as unsweetened tea, spinning tales of me as the villain who stole everything. Some buy it, but most know the score. His freeloading, the joke that backfired. His family, who laughed at the barbecue, now deals with their 30-year-old son griping about fridge contents. Fitting, really. Loose ends tied, I'm lighter, the weight of that unbalanced life gone. I'm sitting on my balcony now, 8 months since that coffee shop showdown. The morning air crisp with the scent of blooming jasmine from the park across the street. My apartment is no longer a maze of boxes. It's home, shelves lined with books, a cozy rug underfoot, a coffee mug with a cheeky "Movie On" slogan I bought on a whim. The drama with Liam feels like a distant storm, its thunder faded to a murmur. I've built a new rhythm, one that hums with possibility, and I want to close this story with the peace I've found, flipping that tired cow metaphor into something that's wholly mine. The profit from the house sale sits in my account, growing steadily through careful investments, a nest egg for a future I'm shaping alone. I don't need a house yet, just this space, where sunlight streams through windows and no one's socks litter my floor. After Liam picked up his stuff, the silence was deafening but welcome. I'd spent that first month savoring it, long walks in the park where joggers' sneakers thumped rhythmically, reminding me life moves forward. I'd sleep in, the mattress cradling me without the weight of his snores, and read novels under a throw blanket, pages whispering as I turned them. Then came Italy, a dream I'd shelved because my money was always tied up in our future. I wandered Rome's ancient streets, the Colosseum's stones warm under my touch, and ate gelato in Florence, pistachio melting on my tongue like a promise kept. Each bite, each cobblestone, felt like reclaiming time I'd given away. Back home, I've kept it simple. Work, friends, quiet nights with jazz playlists and candles flickering. My best friend Sarah jokes I'm living my main character era, and she's not wrong. I'm not waiting for anyone's permission to start my life anymore. Liam's fallout filters through mutual friends, little updates dropped casually over brunch mimosas. He's still in his parents' basement, a 30-year-old fixture griping about their boring milk or outdated Wi-Fi. He tells anyone who'll listen that I'm a manipulative thief who stripped him bare, but the truth has legs. Most know he coasted on my dime. His family, who roared at his barbecue joke, now hosts their freeloader son, his bitterness a guest they can't evict. I don't gloat. It's just poetic, like a punchline that landed where it belonged. I ran into his cousin at a grocery store last week, her eyes darting away as she mumbled a hello. I just smiled, my cart full of ingredients for a solo dinner, fresh basil, pasta, a bottle of red. No pity needed. Reflecting on that buy the cow quip, I see its irony clearer now. Liam thought he was clever, but he missed the real question. It's not about buying the cow, it's why the cow, who owns the whole damn farm, would give her milk away for pennies. I was the farm, the house, the stability, the future I built while he lounged in my pasture. I gave him a discount, thinking we were partners, but his family's laughter showed me I was a convenience, a means to his comfort. Now, I'm done subsidizing anyone. My pasture is mine, lush, open, ready for new seeds. Maybe I'll make cheese as I joked, or maybe I'll plant something entirely new. The view from here is wide, the horizon untouched by anyone's shadow. This journey wasn't about revenge, it was about clarity. I didn't burn bridges. I walked away from one that was never built right. The binder, the spreadsheets, the lawyer, they were tools of a woman who refused to be a punchline. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free, my days unfolding like pages in a book I'm writing myself. Liam's calls stopped months ago, his threats silenced by facts, and I've let go of the weight of his words. My life feels like a canvas, colors vivid and mine to choose. As the sun dips below the trees, casting a soft glow across my balcony, I breathe in the quiet, the kind that settles deep in your bones. The chaos of Liam's world, his frantic calls, his family's accusations, has faded like a song you can't quite recall. I'm here, in this moment, with a mug of tea warming my hands, its steam curling like a gentle promise. I've learned to savor the small things, the crunch of leaves on my walks, the laughter of friends over shared meals, the freedom to choose my path without waiting for someone else's map. Selling the house wasn't just a transaction. It was proof I could build something and let it go, keeping only what serves me. Italy's flavors linger in my memory, tangy marinara, sweet gelato, and they remind me I'm alive, not just existing. Liam's in his parents' basement, carrying his bitterness like a heavy pack. But that's his story now, not mine. I'm the cow who owns the farm, and I'm not giving anything away for free anymore. My future is an open field, stretching far, whispering of new beginnings.